Good morning. Today I am doing the chart of the decision of Roe versus Wade, and I would like to explore what might be happening, what might be going on in the minds of those who have decided that this is a good idea. And there are several things that are highly troubling. Seventh house partnerships about crisis and a moral crisis in Sagittarius, saying that we morally have a right to decide for you what happens to you in the relationships and partnerships that you obtain. And furthermore, although it is not actually conjunct, the orb is too great. You see 6 degrees Neptune with 15 degrees Mars. Well, Mars in the 8th house is suggesting that there is a rather aggressive push to have this other moral energy placed upon us, regardless of the consequences to the various people involved. And myself, I have had a very difficult time with childbirth and really am not physically equipped to have children without perhaps dying from it. And in my opinion, from that perspective, someone telling me what I can and can't do with my body, and in addition to that, telling me that if something happens to my body that's really ugly and unkind, I have no choice. And you'll notice that we have Saturn in Gemini on the cusp of the 1st house going into the 2nd house, opposite Neptune, that loss of sense of partnership and well-being. And are we not experiencing a sense of loss over this? I mean, women everywhere are outraged and should be outraged. This is an outrageous act on the part of our Supreme Court, if it turns out to be true. Now, mind you, we don't know yet. Justice Roberts is saying that information being released was premature and should not have been released at this time. So I'm hoping that they go back to the drawing board and look at what might be a better possibility, and that is to allow women to decide for themselves what they can do with their bodies. I mean, if you're raped, if you're incest victims or whatever, why does the government need to tell me what I have to do with my body and childbearing? So what we're going to do is we're going to expand this chart, and we're just going to look at the transits as well, because I think that this is a relevant issue at this time. And notice we have Moon in the 2nd house in Gemini, where this outrageous news, if you will, is coming out, and they're telling us how it's going to be. And you can see that it is inconjunct with Jupiter, although it is 2 orbs off, it is still nonetheless inconjunct. And inconjunct is oftentimes going to lead to medical issues. And why is that? Well, it's energy that's not compatible. It's energy that, let's say it's one house might be positive, the other might be negative. Okay, that would be something about the house placement is less than solid. So the planet may be in some form of detriment. And what I'm seeing here is inconjunct. This is going to create health issues for women, serious health issues, which is really sad. We have 22 degrees North Node Taurus in the 12th house of loss, suggesting that there's a crisis. And boy, is there ever. I mean, myself, I feel rather furious about the whole thing. And you notice over in the 12th house, again, you have in transit, you have 14 degrees Sun in Taurus, where we're looking at how we go about things, right? And in the house of loss. And then you have sudden and unexpected surprises in Taurus that affect the family and our financial realities. So yes, I from the looks of this chart, I would say that it is very likely that Roe versus Wade is going to be overturned. And how utterly disgusting of our government to do such a thing to us women. I mean, wow. So now let's just take a look. So you have additionally the Roe v. Wade decision. Let me see, what year was that decision? 1973. So we're talking 40 some years later. So again, that progressed sun is going to be in the 12th house in Aries, where we're striking out on a new way of going about things. That, in fact, if you look at it from the perspective of it, which house it's in, the house of crisis, we can fully expect that we're going to have a good deal of crisis as a result of this very poor decision. Now, I'm noticing also Jupiter 22 degrees, where we did have that inconjunct. That 22 degrees can indicate, through degree theory, serious loss. That is a crisis number as far as some theories go. So I want to just say it's a theory, and I don't have proof of it. It is a developed theory, but it is a very interesting one. Now, we do have in the 9th house Pluto, where we have wounding in our higher education. And that's by transit that I am seeing this in Capricorn, which Pluto is about to go into Aquarius. Transformation of what is going to be about groups. And already now 28 degrees is kind of the very ending of the 9th house and transformation in our understanding and education. And as we leave the 9th house of this higher moral energy, we are seeing the courts in their full colors. We are witnessing something that personally I'm finding shocking, that they're going to overturn Roe v. Wade. But as Pluto leaves Capricorn, it is heading into Aquarius. So we shall see. And with Uranus in the 2nd house of objects and income, we may see shocking, unsettling revelations as to how we're going forward. Now, I find it highly insulting to live in a country that limits my ability to get medical care through limiting mine and others' ability of medical insurance. This country, like no other country, has a policy. It used to have a policy. We no longer have pre-existing condition, but at one time we had a process called pre-existing condition, meaning that in your lifetime, you could use up an entire policy and never be insurable again. And in fact, this actually occurred with me pre-18, because I had had a medical experience where I had used up $1 million policy. So how they can say that this is legitimate right and otherwise something we should be doing is just a disgusting thing. So I have to admit, I'm highly troubled. And of course, some of the information on Facebook, which is largely where I distribute my podcasts through YouTube and then on Facebook, for the women, it's shocking. Now, we do have Moon in the 5th house, which is going to be of Sun. And this is in Virgo, where we are subconsciously looking over the details. But again, we've got another inconjunct to the Sun, where the energy has nothing in common. The Sun representing the male energy, the Moon representing the female energy. What's coming is conflict, and lots of it, which is, wow, how sad. And then you see up here 14 degrees Pisces, where the 10th house via transit now, we are about to see loss. And 14 degrees would be considered an anxiety number. Again, not as researched as I would like, but been around a long time. The theory of degrees. And I do like to incorporate all of it if I can, because it's all about education for all of us to learn what these charts say and why they say it. I'm going to look down here at the bottom. My chart's a little bigger than my screen, and I do apologize for that, but you can see the gist of it all. And again, these blue lines with these what look like Ks are considered inconjunct. So anytime we see this, and as I'm going into medical astrology, what I'm seeing here is energy that doesn't mix. For instance, Mars inconjunct Uranus, 14 degrees, 12th house. Mars is saying, I have a really high-end moral obligation to do this religious, unfounded medical thing to you, to maintain power and control over you. And you have an obligation to me without me having any real obligation to you. A rather disgusting, and where we have limitations at 14 degrees Saturn, again, that anxiety creating in information opposite Mars, where the id is saying, okay, you're going to have babies whether you want them or not, and I really don't care. And you're going to do a good job or you're going to go to prison. So are we willing as women and as humans to start housing all of our women in prison that don't want to have children or shouldn't have children, who are drug addicted perhaps, or medically not well? Where do we draw the line? Where is the moral line in this? I, as a medical astrologer in training, now I'm not done with my program, I see nothing but ugly conflict in this. I see nothing but loss for women. Everything about this chart, Roe v. Wade, suggests that they could care very little, they care very little about the moral aspects of this decision, that they believe in their wicked little minds, the Supreme Court, that they're making the right decision for the masses. Whether it is or not doesn't matter. For them, it's the decision. And so I had posted yesterday, which I'm really sad to say, but I believe it's valid, is probably women everywhere should go in and get something done so that they do not have to bear children they do not want. And I don't know what all the methods of birth control are these days. I know they have IUDs and different things. I don't know how safe they are. I doubt that they're safe. There's the birth control pill, which I don't know how safe that is. I doubt that it's safe. But how safe are you having children you don't want over the course of time? None of us are safe from that one. And to think that we're living in a system that is going to tell you whether or not you will have children and how that will be is setting us all up to fail. My daughter has 2 children right now that she's raising, and as a drug addict, living in hotels. And the system no longer takes children from their parent for methamphetamine use, provided they don't use the meth in front of the child or whatever drugs, I don't know. But my grandchildren are homeless, and there's not a thing I can do about it because I've been told I'm not the parent. I have no legal right. And I'm observing a system that's saying to us, the masses, you will have children, you will have them against your will, and you will raise them. How likely is that to lead us to a lot more problems than we currently already have? I suspect, yes, it will be highly problematic. And where this is going to go, I don't know. But with that, I ask that you hit the like, share, and subscribe. And if you have a story about a medical issue that you've had while pregnant, please do leave a comment and I will respond. And furthermore, if you have had medical issues from pregnancy, leave a comment on that as well. I'm really curious to see where we're at. I think I have a feel for it. I think that we're all kind of questioning the sanity of the courts at this time. But like I said, the decision is at best right now conjecture, because it hasn't actually been made, and maybe just the possible creeping out of information will do something to change this. I surely hope so. And with that, thank you so much for joining me here today.